A few months ago, I was watching YouTube, and I came across this video that my boss Luke Pilgrim made for the Sozo Bear Films YouTube channel. It's called Why Vertical Filmmaking is the Future of Cinema, and for the past several months I've been thinking about the things he said a lot. So for this video, I'll be doing a little bit of an experiment. I'm going to try to make the best short film possible vertically. So Luke's video is this really well-researched and informative look into the past, present, and theoretical future of aspect ratios. An aspect ratio is basically just the shape of an image, written as a ratio of its width to its height, like 4:3, 16:9, 2.39:1, or in the case of a vertical smartphone screen, 9:16. And that of course is what you're watching right now. This video really brought my attention to how changes in technology can really bring about subsequent changes in entertainment norms. Originally, movies were 4:3, but then TVs were 4:3 as well, so movies became wider in order to distinguish themselves from television. And then the reason 16:9 exists is because it's a perfect middle ground between 4:3 and widescreen. And so then they made smartphone screens 16:9, or if you flip it the other way, 9:16. So whether we consciously realize it or not, we see this 9:16 aspect ratio all the time now. YouTube Shorts, Instagram Stories, Snapchat Stories, and chief among them recently, TikTok. Most of the stuff you see on these platforms is very homemade in nature. For the most part, it's made up of stuff that people filmed on their cell phones to be displayed on other people's cell phones. So this stuff generally isn't what you would consider cinematic, with some exceptions. Incidentally, one of those exceptions is Sozo Bear Films, the film company that I am an intern for, and where Luke Pilgrim, the guy who made the video essay that started this whole thing, is a founder. They create cinematic narrative TikToks filled with VFX shots, essentially making short films in a vertical aspect ratio. Now, of course, there's a couple of exceptions like that, but when it comes to mainstream exposure, the general audience hasn't seen much in the way of vertical filmmaking. Perhaps the most prominent of very few mainstream examples was back in 2020, when director Damien Chazelle made this short film on an iPhone vertically as a promotion for Apple. It's called The Stunt Double, and now I love me some Damien Chazelle, especially the cinematography in his films, so I'm really not surprised that this film ended up looking pretty good. That said, while it is kind of a case study of what I would consider to be a really well shot vertical film, it also reveals some of the major inherent flaws with vertical filmmaking. As many people have pointed out, a vertical aspect ratio lacks scope. Imagine something with insane scope. Imagine something like Dune being shot vertically. It doesn't work. That movie is kind of made to be watched on an enormous screen that fully surrounds you. It's all about world building and creating these images where the characters are dwarfed by their surroundings as a show of the sheer enormity of the worlds that they inhabit. So clearly not all stories lend themselves well to a vertical aspect ratio, but that's not really unique to vertical. Not all stories look great in 2.39:1, not all stories will look great in 4:3. Aspect ratios are just an artistic choice. But I would be lying to you if I didn't say that I think 9:16 is one of the most limited ones out there. It makes close-ups really tough, it significantly narrows the scope of your film, and probably most importantly, it really makes movement difficult. People generally move from side to side instead of up and down. If I'm filming in a vertical aspect ratio and I take one big step this way, I'm out of frame already. When I'm in a horizontal aspect ratio, I have a lot more room for movement from side to side, which is, you know, the way humans generally move. So when you're shooting things vertically, you just have to be extra clever and find ways for things, people, and attention to move up and down. No, I didn't do it. Up and up. I did up and down. That was wrong. Damien Chazelle does this really well in this one shot of a staircase and in this entire tower scene. But such convenient setups for vertically oriented shots are pretty hard to come by in real life and therefore kind of hard to incorporate into your film. That said, this video isn't here to diss vertical filmmaking. On the contrary, it's nothing but an experiment to find the strengths and the weaknesses of vertical filmmaking. And I know for a fact that provided we do this right, there's some strengths in there to be found. So let's make something. So, my girlfriend Zoe and I started working on a story. We knew that our tentative release date was the Saturday before Valentine's Day, so one of the first things we knew was that we wanted to bring that holiday into the story somehow. As we often tend to when we write these things, we hit a little bit of a writer's block. And then later, we were just kind of hanging around and talking about one of our most recent short films called A Halloween to Forget. I brought up how there was this whole scene where they order pizza in that movie, and originally that scene was going to be longer, and I was was going to play the pizza guy, and there was going to be this whole thing where I was in the doorway and I talked to Ty's character and I like invite him for a ride in the pizza delivery car. It was way more of a tangent than we needed in the story, honestly, so I ended up cutting it for that reason. Anyways, my character in that short film was going to be named Brad, and he was going to wear a red beanie, just like Brad from my short film K does, just as a little inside joke between me and my friends so that our short films could be kind of interconnected. You guys don't get to see much of it, but we have some weirdly elaborate lore for some of this stuff that we've just made up for fun. Anyways, Zoe was like, what if this is the short film where Brad finally makes his reappearance? All that is to say that Out for Delivery is, in fact, canonically, a sequel to K. Finally, the follow-up that no one in particular has been waiting for. In addition, A Halloween to Forget and the Remember That Night music video both take place within the same universe. The more you know. I had already put together most of a pizza delivery guy costume for A Halloween to Forget, so we started thinking about what we could do with this concept of Brad delivering pizzas. And so this concept was born. Brad is delivering pizzas on Valentine's Day when he finds himself having to deliver a pizza to his ex-girlfriend, Nicole. And then in between his conversations with Nicole, he talks on the phone with his friend, played by my friend Michael Light, who kind of convinces him that Nicole is not the right person for him. Easily, our biggest obstacle was time. We were all three involved in our school's production of Beauty and the Beast, with Zoe playing Belle, Michael playing the Beast, and me playing Cogsworth, so needless to say, we were all pretty busy pretty much all of the time. That gave us only a couple of weekends and only a couple of days that were actually free to get this entire thing done. So we decided to do the impossible. Or the very difficult, at least. We would film this entire thing in one weekend, 2 nights. One night at my grandparents' house for the scenes that are in the neighborhood and to record Michael's audio, and one night at Zoe's house for all of the scenes that take place indoors at Nicole's house. Friday night rolls around.
Okay, I'm here at my grandmother's house where we're going to film the neighborhood scenes for this film. I'm currently in the garage where we're working on getting the car ready to go out and do some of these scenes. And I'm pretty excited. I get to test out this new piece of equipment.
I use this brand new car mount for my camera to put on the front of my car that I got off of Amazon, which was incredibly nerve-wracking. Even like at low speeds in a neighborhood, my camera is my baby and it is very expensive, and I don't like having it like outside of a car that is being driven. It was terrifying.
It's got 3 giant suction cups, and we're just gonna stick this bad boy to the front of my car and start driving.
It also looked incredibly sketchy because I was doing like very low speeds in circles around my grandmother's neighborhood with a camera attached to the hood of my car. We are lucky the police did not get called on us. Zoe, Michael, and I all meet up at my grandparents' house. Thank you, Mon Pop Pop, for letting us use your space again, and we spend most of the night filming. Luckily, my grandparents have plenty of places to sleep in their house, and so we were all able to like separately room and spend the night at my grandparents' house, which is great because if we weren't able to spend the night, we would have had to go home a lot sooner, and this thing would not have happened.
We're outside, it's midnight, we're filming for this video. We're probably gonna get shot because somebody's gonna think we're trespassing. But it's snowing out here. Hey Zoe. Hi.
Babe, we're doing a behind the scenes, get off of TikTok.
Michael, tell us how you've decided to play the character Michael.
Half-baked. You know, like that,
like chips.
like the Lay's chips, 65% baked.
Maybe play them at about like 35% baked.
35%.
That might be a good.
Damn. Pizza. Pizza actually sounds. Pizza actually. Sorry. I keep thinking I'm about to say pizza. Or just
Zoe,
me.
was that like half baked, do you think?
I guess my personality is just a little bit baked. Don't let her flirt with you. Pretend it's you.
Okay.
Oh, it's almost 1 o'clock. Oh.
Zoe, tiredness update.
Come on, put the camera down.
No, man, come to my house. We can talk about life and world. We can talk about life, the world, pizza.
So the next day, that Saturday, we had to go to a rehearsal for the show, which after we had stayed up as late as we had was incredibly exhausting, but we pushed through. That evening, I went to Zoe's house to film the rest of my scenes, and once again, we had underestimated the amount of time this would take.
Pictures up, runs on Duncan.
You're the spokesman now. Look in the camera and say, "Pictures Up runs on Duncan."
Pictures Up runs on Duncan.
Oh my god, it's so cute. Oh my god. I ever told you the story of Darth Snuggy the Wise? Hello, I have a light. Dear fellow filmmakers, you ever heard of a light? Well, now you have.
Stop. Please.
After we were done, we watched some anime with her dogs, and then we went to bed. Anyways, this behind-the-scenes video is incredibly late. I'm very aware of that. I'm very sorry for that. With Beauty and the Beast and everything that's been going on, it has been difficult to find any time to set aside to do this. But now that it's here, I would like to finish this whole thing off with some closing thoughts about this experiment. I would never do this again. Unless I were making content for TikTok or Instagram Reels or something else where a vertical aspect ratio is the norm, I would rather stick to the horizontal aspect ratio that I've been trained to shoot in. That's my personal feeling though, and other people thrive with different creative choices. For example, the guys at Sozo Bear Films, like the whole reason I started this experiment, are really good at vertical video, way better than me. And yeah, it has its obvious pitfalls that are still present. Vertical can be a little bit awkward and hard to work with, but they know that and they know its limits, and so all things considered, they make it look great. And obligatory plug, if you haven't followed them on TikTok yet, of course, do that right away. And back to knowing the limits of vertical video, that's something that they're really good at too. They do it a lot of the times, but it's not all the time. All of their YouTube content is horizontal. Hell, the video that Luke made about vertical filmmaking is a horizontal video. Human eyes see things from left to right. Our perception of the world is inherently horizontally oriented. If humans had like one eye here and one eye here, then vertical video would actually probably represent our vision a lot better, and it would be the norm more than likely. But that's not how we're built, so to me, vertical video comes off as a lot less immersive and realistic, and can even at times be distracting when its limitations are really called to the forefront. So while TikTok and other platforms like that will undoubtedly continue to have massive success with vertically oriented content, I think film, a medium which specifically thrives on immersion and relatability, I just think that film will remain predominantly horizontal. And if I'm wrong about that, this won't age well. I'm glad I did this experiment though. It was a fun way to test myself and make myself feel extra challenged by filmmaking again, and it ended up being a pretty good film. The link to it is in the description. You can check that out if you haven't seen the film yet, or if you have and you want to rewatch it, be my guest, I don't care. So I will see you in the next video. Until then, I am Sam Morgan, and this is Pictures Up. P.S. Brad from Sozo Bear Films. I will never stop naming my short film characters Brad.